To end our chat today, can you give us your best Forbes serious cover shot?
Because I can't get another paid watch ad in there, we might do the old organic.
Okay.
The old organic. But are we ready?
Chris Taylor here for B&T TV, joined today by Ben Pellow from Forbes Australia. How are you?
Good, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. Now, you'll be shocked to hear, I didn't even know Forbes was in Australia. When did Forbes come to Australia?
We're 9 months into our launch period. So we launched September last year. And look, I'm very surprised you haven't heard of it, Chris. You're not hanging out in the right circles.
Look, I mean, do I look like your standard Forbes reader?
Well, I hold these bottles that I've brought in for you today, and you might start to look like a Forbes reader.
How long have we been doing B&T TV? This, I think, is the first time anyone's brought in a bribe for a soft interview. What have we got here? Ben? We've got a
beautiful Levantine Hill wine.
Lovely.
One of our wine partners, and then we have Archie Rose, who are our official whiskey partner, who we absolutely love because we're all about championing Australian
produce. And is the idea that I drink both of these before asking the next question? Or?
The idea is that you drink one of them before asking the next question, and then towards the end of the interview, we'll polish off the rest of whatever's remaining.
Sounds like a game plan. Can we get a couple of tumblers, a couple of glasses, please? Thank you very much for bringing those in. It won't influence me at all. I'm a very, very tough interviewer.
And I wouldn't have brought it in for that reason.
So I associate Forbes with two things. I think people on the cover looking very serious, and a lot of articles about rich people. The rich list. That's sort of where I intersect with the Forbes. That's your big hottest 100, as it were.
Yeah, look, you're not wrong. It's certainly where we play, but I think more than that and above everything, we're all about, I guess, our baseline sort of motto is around championing Australian entrepreneurialism. We think that there's a gap in the market, and we think that there's a massive opportunity to really go in and, yes, highlight the success stories and address the success and the successful people behind that and their story and how they got there. But it's all about, I guess, inspiring the next generation and ensuring that Australia's a hub for innovation moving forward.
How many billionaires do you know?
Personally? Yeah. A lot more since starting this job.
Right. Because that's the thing. I always wonder, because it obviously is very aspirational on the cover, and it sort of cloaks itself in that great success, global success, Australian success. And I always wonder, is the Forbes office just like any old shitty newspaper at the end of the day, or is there a sense of class about the place?
There is certainly a sense of class in what we do, and it's through to our magazine. I think if you look at our magazine compared to other Forbes around the world, we've invested heavily in that space. It's a beautiful, it looks and feels more like a Vogue or a GQ. We stole our creative director from Harper's Bazaar. We even stole our IT director from Louis Vuitton. So for us, it's about that look and the feel, and certainly the aspirational side. But once you get to the core of it, there's still a few gruff bastards like me around doing the media side of things.
How do you think Australian businessmen and women and Australian entrepreneurs differ from their US counterparts? Is there a difference at that top end of wealth?
There is, I think, from my exposure to them, plus, what we know about the Australian market, I think that we certainly battle with a bit of tall poppy syndrome down here in Australia. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think the Australian, larrikin nature, as well as punching up, is something that we've always done. If you look at, even your success early on in your career with things like, I always forget how many N's, but CNN.
Thank you for remembering.
The Chaser, the reason you were able to connect with the Australian sort of audience on such a significant level is that you didn't punch down. You took aim at politicians and at the higher ups, but then also to another degree. I remember, I think one of my favourites was where you used to go at people with vanity license plates, etc. Right. Yeah, we love to have a bit of a dig, right?
But I need to give you some whiskey to thank you for all this gushing about the Chaser. Your gift is in the mail.
Absolutely. Look, I think I think we do a really good job in Australia at finding the balance in other areas. You look at our, the way that we regard sports stars. Yes, we're hard on them and we demand a lot because we're a sporting nation, but we also give them a lot of leeway. And I feel as if when it comes to business and, just the word billionaire nowadays, we tend to try and tear down. And I think what we need to do better as a country is never lose that larrikin nature and that, take the piss nature. But at the same time, there's a lot of Australian billionaires who maybe don't, or, other successful industry leaders who are wary of putting their name out there, who are wary of sharing their story. And I think what we're trying to do is create a safe environment where the next generation can learn and be mentored by this audience. So I'd say that's the big difference if I look at the US. And you see it everywhere you go. I mean, you look at the largest concentration of, residential wealth in Australia, and it's here in Sydney, in the eastern suburbs. You go and drive around the eastern suburbs of Sydney. Tell me how many Ferraris you see. Tell me how many McLarens you see driving around. You won't see it. You see a shitload of Range Rovers.
Whereas if you go to Mount Druitt, it's all Ferrari and Lamborghini. That's where they are.
Very successful, yeah. But I think there's something inherent in our nature about not wanting to show off, and I don't want to get rid of that because I think it's what makes us special as a nation. But we got to be cautious of doing that at the expense of being aspirational and instructional to the next generation that are going to ensure our economic success.
You've kind of just articulated the real challenge for Forbes in Australia is that because we don't like necessarily wearing the most expensive watch on our hand, we don't like openly saying what our salary is at a dinner party the way Americans, will before the hors d'oeuvres are out. Yeah. How do you tread that very fine line between respecting the Australian culture and understanding it while still being true to Forbes's core brands and values?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we tell the story and we tell the true story. We don't try and pivot it into overnight success. And I think that's something that not all countries, regardless of where you are, not everyone's doing it in the right way. They start talking about, I came up with a great idea in this particular space. I saw a gap. I got the right level of, capital injection, and boom, I'm a billionaire overnight. That's not the case for most, especially most of the Australian success stories. There's 2, 3, 4 failures in the business space. There's companies that haven't been successful. I bet your bottom dollar those milk run boys are absolutely going to be back before we can blink with an incredible new idea.
They brought these in.
Well, there you go.
They've gone into Whiskey Run, and it's amazing.
Well, there you go. So I guess what I'm trying to sort of hint at there is that we need to celebrate success, but the way that we tread the line and where you get your respect from your Australian audience is by being truthful, and that's sort of what we're focused on.
One thing that always interests me when I sort of tangentially read these lists secondhand, like the top rich lists and that kind of thing, in regards to Australia, is how many independent female rich people are on our list. Australia seems to be batting above its weight in terms of female wealth, female billionaires. Would you agree with that?
It's a double-edged sword there, Chris. Do I want to turn around and say Australia solves sexism? No. Do I think that we have some generational wealth that tends to skew towards female? I think we do. Do I think we could do a much better job in terms of independently wealthy female billionaires and business leaders? I think we have a ways to go. For instance, if I was to say to you, name me 3 independently wealthy female Australian billionaires.
Well, the one that always seems to come up, and apologies, I forget her name, but the Canva.
Mel Perkins.
Yeah. After that, I've had too many whiskies to name the other 2.
My point exactly, right? Like, so I look at that question, and you're not the first person to ask it to me. And yes, when you look down the list, there certainly is that, and there's also that debate around what is independent wealth and what is self-made, and it's a convoluted question, and you can look at it from a million different angles and say that some of the people on that list certainly are there from their own business decisions, and I'm not taking that away from anyone. But I certainly would say let's not go down the route of saying we're doing as good as we can or we're outperforming some other countries. I think we could be doing much better in that space. And again, it's another reason why we're here to share those stories. Our most successful event to date has been the Forbes Women's Summit. By far, what we saw out of that and the community that grew out of that, we're actually looking at sort of expanding on that and having, regular Forbes female networking events to help champion and grow that. Our editor-in-chief is probably one of the most intelligent women I've ever met, Sarah Carroll, and her passion for that space is unrivaled. So I think there's a lot that we can do in there, but I wouldn't go as far as saying we're batting above our weight.
Right.
I think we've got room to grow.
Is it almost, has the media got that wrong in a way? Because I sort of get a sense that sometimes the media pitches it as if, and there's the Reinhardt Factor. We just, and they're kind of the, I guess, inherited wealth ones. So can you claim those ones if they're not necessarily self-made? Is that the issue? Whereas the media just tends to look at the figure, go, oh, Australia is very progressive, but is it more a follow the money question rather than just look at the gender?
Look, as a sales guy in the media industry, I can read data and pitch it to you 10 different ways to get the result I want. I don't take anything away from Gina. I think she's done some amazing things in her career, and I think she'll continue to do some amazing things. But yes, if we look independently and say, self-made, from the ground up, yes, you can look and say, I think Mel Perkins is, if not standalone, almost standalone in that space. And that doesn't, again, I have to emphasize, it doesn't take away from some of the most, incredible business minds in the country that happen to be female and have risen to that billionaire status. But I have to shy away from saying that we're there yet. And I think, the media can pick and choose data however they want, as do I as a salesperson. But I think if we sit back and we look top end, I think regardless of what side of that data you sit on or how you want to interpret it, there's room to grow and there's room to improve. And I think that's a big part of our mission.
We were talking just before we started rolling the camera about how we associate a lot of these magazines, this is not alone with Forbes, but all those sort of luxury end magazines, the AFR in supplementary magazine, you kind of judge them by their watch ads. Yeah. How many ads for very expensive men's watches before you get to content? Can we do the watch test with the latest edition of Forbes?
Let's do the watch test. So what have we got
here? We've got a car.
We've got Range Rover, King Living, some beautiful furniture. Our first watch ad.
One.
Hugh Blow.
A green watch.
Let's
so it's
see.
greenwashing in the watch ad.
We've then got our contents page.
That looks
and
like
then
a watch.
we've got Brigade.
Two.
Now, if you went through the rest of the magazine, you wouldn't find a single watch until you get to the back.
So two up front, and then so only three watches. Only three watches in the whole magazine.
We had a choice when we launched Forbes, and we said, look, we can go down the traditional publisher route, and we can.
Which is what, 40 watch ads before you get to the contents.
45 watch ads actually. I think on average. Even G-Shock gets in there nowadays, but no diss to Casio. I think for us, we said, okay, do we want to attract as many eyeballs as we can to the website and to the magazine and monetize it, every which way from Sunday? Or can we take a step back? Can we start to create a club and an environment where we champion a select few brands? So we went down the category exclusive route. I only work with one banking partner. I only work with 3 watch ads at different tiers. I only work with 3 car partners, one in the SUV, sedan and supercar space. I work with 1 whiskey partner, 1 gin partner. I didn't get you a bottle of gin. I apologise because I'll send that over.
And that will affect how we edit this whole piece.
But I think for us, what we really want to do is create a club, a network, and a community where we take and select brands that we think best represent our audience. So it was scary. It was a decision that, it took some thought and some consideration, but we knew we'd take a hit on the numbers early on in order to secure what we think is probably one of the most prestigious advertising spaces in the country at the moment, and it's paid off for us. It's looking like 90% plus of our clients so far have already signed on for a second year. They're seeing the results.
At the start of this chat, I said I associate Forbes with 2 things. One is sort of dissection of the billionaire set. The other was very serious headshots, as brilliantly demonstrated by the current cover. To end our chat today, Ben.
I think all.
Oh, can we? Oh, let's hold them.
All 3 have the
look
very
at
serious
yeah.
headshots, so.
To end our chat today, can you give us your best Forbes serious cover shot down this one here? Maybe sort of blue steel. Start on the side and then.
Okay, well, what I'm thinking
Yeah.
is, because I can't get another paid watch ad in there, we might do the old organic.
Oh, okay.
The old organic. But are we ready? Very considered. That's what you get out
Beautiful.
of me.
Should we do one in sync down to here too? This is Chris Taylor signing off for BNT TV. Thank you, Ben.